The Scandalous Life of Gus Hall, 10 Shocking and Intriguing Facts. Gus Hall, born Arvo Custa Hallberg, was a prominent American communist leader and longtime head of the Communist Party USA, CUSA. Known for his unwavering support of Soviet policies, Hall's life was filled with controversy, scandal, and intrigue. This video delves into 10 of the most scandalous and shocking facts about his life, revealing a man who remained steadfast in his beliefs despite the ever-present scrutiny and criticism. Fact number 1. Early life and personal struggles. Gus Hall, born Arvo Custa Hallberg on October 8, 1910, in Cherry, Minnesota, was the son of Finnish immigrants deeply rooted in leftist politics. His father, Matt Hallberg, was a dedicated union organizer who had been blacklisted for his activism, and his mother, Susanna Koski, was a founding member of the Radical Industrial Workers of the World, IWW. Hall left school at 15 to work in the iron mines of northern Minnesota, where he quickly learned about the harsh realities of working-class life. He joined the Young Communist League, which solidified his views on class struggle. In 1935, he married Elizabeth Turner, and together they had 2 children. Elizabeth, herself deeply committed to the communist cause, became Hall's steadfast supporter, often accompanying him at public events. Despite the strains of Hall's political activities, Elizabeth remained a crucial figure in his life, providing both personal and public support as he climbed the ranks of the Communist Party USA. Number 2. The rise through communist ranks. Hall's ascent within the Communist Party USA, CUSA, was swift, driven by his charisma and unyielding commitment to labor activism. By the late 1920s, he had established himself as a powerful union organizer in the steel industry, leading numerous strikes and demonstrations against harsh working conditions. His militancy often put him at odds with more moderate union leaders, who viewed Hall as too radical. In 1937, Hall played a leading role in the infamous Little Steel Strike, which turned violent and resulted in his arrest. The strike, marked by intense clashes between strikers and police, underscored Hall's willingness to confront not only powerful industrialists but also the government. His defiance and relentless activism earned him both admiration among leftists and notoriety among authorities, cementing his status as a radical labor leader. Number 3. World War II and the Smith Act trial. During World War II, Hall's service in the U.S. Navy was a surprising chapter in his life, given his staunch communist beliefs. Despite his political views, he served honorably, which added a complex layer to his public image. After the war, Hall resumed his political activism, but in 1949, he faced a major setback when he and other CUSA leaders were indicted under the Smith Act. The act, aimed at curbing the spread of communism, criminalized advocacy for the violent overthrow of the government. The high-profile trial, held in New York, became a media spectacle, with Hall delivering impassioned defenses of communism. He was sentenced to 5 years in Leavenworth Prison, where he continued to inspire his followers, further establishing himself as a symbol of defiance against anti-communist sentiment in post-war America. Number 4. The Fugitive Years. Upon his release in 1951, Hall's legal troubles were far from over. Faced with new charges under the McCarran Act, which targeted communist leaders, Hall chose to go underground. For several years, he lived as a fugitive, using false identities and relying on a network of safe houses provided by sympathetic party members. During this period, Hall became one of the FBI's most wanted men, with the agency dedicating significant resources to capture him. His fugitive years were marked by near misses and constant movement, living a life filled with secrecy and danger. In 1954, Hall finally surrendered, but his time on the run had already added a layer of myth and intrigue to his public persona, making him both a hero to his followers and a public enemy in the eyes of U.S. authorities. Number 5. Ties to the Soviet Union. Throughout the Cold War, Hall's ties to the Soviet Union were both a strength and a scandal. Declassified documents reveal that Hall maintained regular, clandestine meetings with Soviet officials, receiving strategic guidance and substantial financial support. According to FBI reports released in the 1980s, Hall received millions of dollars from the Soviet government over the years, funds used to keep the CUSA afloat during its leanest times. These revelations fueled accusations of treason, with critics arguing that Hall was essentially a Soviet agent on American soil. Hall's defense was unwavering. He insisted that the funds were a necessary means of supporting the American working class against capitalist oppression, but the public backlash and accusations of espionage permanently tainted his image. Number 6. Presidential runs and public backlash. Hall's presidential campaigns in 1972, 1976, 1980, and 1984 were less about winning votes and more about spreading communist ideology. Despite receiving only a fraction of the vote in each election, Hall used his platform to criticize U.S. capitalism and promote socialist ideals. His 1976 campaign became particularly controversial when he praised Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev, calling him a great statesman of peace. The comments sparked outrage, drawing condemnation from both politicians and the media. Hall's campaigns were widely seen as Soviet-funded propaganda efforts, with little genuine support from the American electorate. Despite the repeated failures, Hall remained undeterred, using every election as an opportunity to voice his radical views. Number 7. The scandal of Soviet medals. In 1977, Hall was awarded the prestigious Order of Lenin by the Soviet Union, one of the highest honors that could be bestowed upon a non-Soviet citizen. The award was seen by many as a direct acknowledgement of Hall's unwavering loyalty to Moscow, further fueling claims that he was more dedicated to the USSR than to his own country. The backlash was swift. Even some left-leaning Americans criticized Hall for accepting the medal, arguing that it confirmed his alignment with a foreign adversary. The scandal cemented Hall's image as a Soviet loyalist and intensified public scrutiny of his ties to Moscow, tarnishing his reputation even among some of his former allies. Number 8. FBI surveillance and COINTELPRO. Gus Hall was a prime target of the FBI's COINTELPRO, a covert program aimed at disrupting and discrediting communist and socialist movements. Under J. Edgar Hoover's direction, the FBI placed Hall under constant surveillance, intercepting his communications, infiltrating CUSA meetings, and attempting to sow discord within the party. Declassified FBI files reveal the extent of the agency's efforts, including attempts to incite paranoia among CUSA members and discredit Hall's leadership. Despite these challenges, Hall remained resilient, continuing his activism and maintaining his position within the party. The relentless surveillance underscored the U.S. government's fear of communist influence during the Cold War and Hall's role as one of its most defiant adversaries. Number 9. The decline of the CUSA. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 dealt a fatal blow to the CUSA, which had long relied on Soviet support for financial stability. Under Hall's leadership, the party struggled to adapt to the new geopolitical reality. Membership dwindled to just a few thousand, and the party faced severe financial difficulties. Critics within the CUSA accused Hall of clinging to outdated Soviet models and failing to modernize the party's approach. As the Cold War era ended, Hall's once influential position became increasingly irrelevant, with many viewing him as a relic of a bygone era. His refusal to distance the party from its Soviet past led to splits and defections, hastening the CUSA's decline. Number 10. Death and legacy. Gus Hall died on October 13, 2000, at the age of 90. He left behind a complex legacy, seen by some as a steadfast champion of workers' rights and socialism, and by others as a dangerous ideologue beholden to a foreign power. Hall's supporters celebrated his unwavering commitment to the communist cause, often highlighting his courage in the face of persecution. However, his critics, including many former allies, saw him as a divisive figure whose alignment with the Soviet Union overshadowed his contributions to the labor movement. Today, Hall's life is remembered as a symbol of the intense ideological battles of the 20th century, reflecting both the hope and peril of radical politics in American history.